All right. Thank you, everyone. We are now part of the program. We want to recognize the elected officials that are with us here today. So if you could please help me with a round of applause. We want to start off first with our Texas House of Representatives. We have Mike Schofield. Mike Schofield, are you in the House? We also have Representative Terry Wilson. Representative Wilson. Representative Terry Leo Wilson. Representative Matt Shaheen. Matt Shaheen's still here. Excellent. My favorite, Representative Carrie Isaac. Representative Richard Hayes. Representative Richard Hayes still here. Excellent. Representative Shelby Slauson. All right. Y'all made it easy for me, all sitting over here on this side of the room. Representative James Frank. James Frank with us. All right, Mr. Frank. Representative David Cook. Is David Cook still with us? Excellent. Thank you, sir. Representative David Spiller. David Spiller still with us? Excellent. Thank you, sir. Representative Mark DeRazio from my hometown, San Antonio. All right. Representative Brian Harrison. Is Brian still with us? Excellent. Representative Nate Schatzline make it with us? Not today? Okay. We also have senators with the, we also have Representative Ben Bumgarner with us. Good to see you, sir. Senator Lois Kolkhorst. Is Senator Lois Kolkhorst still with us? Excellent. Senator Brian Hughes. Senator Hughes. I see you, sir. I see you. Representative Bob Hall. Senator Bob Hall. Senator Bob Hall, pardon me. Senator Bob Hall. Senator Kevin Sparks. Senator Brandon Creighton. Excellent. Thank you, sir. State Board of Education, Aaron Kinsey. Is Aaron still with us? Excellent. Also, board member L.J. Francis. Are you still with us, sir? Excellent. Good. Good to have you here. We've got the Chief Justice James Wortham still with us here today, right? All right. And of course, we have the very honorable, our Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Dan Patrick. All right, when we kicked off lunch earlier today, I alluded to some of the 85 policy victories we helped contribute to during the 88 Texas legislature. Now, for many leaders, this would result in a victory lap or an easing of commitment, but not Greg Sindelar. And while we did celebrate some, he quickly had us back in the war room trying to figure out plans on how we're going to further protect Texas families, further reduce tax burdens, and further restore the proper role of government, reminding us that we have a finite amount of time to complete all necessary research, to draft those bills, to secure those chamber champions, and to align coalitions so that we're best set up for success in the 89 Texas legislature commencing January 14th, 2025, a mere 299 days away from today. And if we do all of those things with the utmost integrity and the utmost discipline, then this great experiment that we call America gets to survive for one more day. That's the deal. And I'm honored to be in a room full of patriots that accepts our chief executive's challenge, including my colleague, Ms. Sherry Sylvester, whom I'd now like to invite to the stage so that she can introduce the Lieutenant Governor. Sherry Sylvester was a major architect in Senate Bill 17, the DEI ban. She currently serves on the Texas 1836 Advisory Committee. She's worked with a major U.S. senator. She's worked with a major U.S. city mayor. She's, of course, worked for a long time with one of our closest coalition partners, Texans for Lawsuit Reform. And most recently, she worked with our Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick. Please help me welcome to the stage my friend and San Antonio neighbor, Ms. Sherry Sylvester.
Well, architect Senator Creighton, I was just standing around listening to the meetings. So grateful to you all for Senate Bill 17. But you know, this is election season, and I was thinking, let's talk about this. 18 years ago this month, Dan Patrick, who had never run for public office, ran for an open Senate seat. He won the four-person primary outright with 69% of the vote, even though there were 2 House members in the race. In 2014, when he challenged the sitting lieutenant governor in another four-person primary, he won 41% of the vote in the primary against the ag commissioner, the head of the general land office, and the incumbent lieutenant governor. In the runoff, he won with 63% of the vote. In 2022, he was reelected to his 3rd term by almost 1 million votes. He made from the beginning securing the border a top priority off his statewide run. He fulfilled that campaign promise when he secured, for the first time ever, almost $1 billion in funding to deploy hundreds of Texas officers on the border. He put serious tax property reform on the table, and he's kept it on the table. He's never let it go. We got a $100,000 homestead exemption this last session. He's been passing school choice bills for over a decade. Thanks to the Lieutenant Governor, our work here at TPPF on school choice is cut in half. We've only got to work one chamber. The Senate's on board. That's just a short list of the 150 conservative priorities Lieutenant Governor has passed since he's been in office. But there's a couple more things I want to mention. Senate Bill 4, which he co-authored with Senator Charles Perry, which will allow Texas to finally arrest illegals and send them back. And our friend Kate Rogers, CEO of the Alamo, is in the House, so I certainly want to remind everybody that our Lieutenant Governor saved the Alamo. Beginning back from that first campaign, though, the Lieutenant Governor always told us he was a Christian first, a conservative second, and a Republican third. You see that Christian first commitment in his priority to secure the border. Of course, he wants to protect us Texans, but also, as he said hundreds of times, no one should come to America in the back of an 18-wheeler and be forced to live in the shadows. As Tim Tebow reminded us last night, Christian first. In those difficult days after Hurricane Harvey, the Lieutenant Governor found some guys with a really huge truck, and he rode with them through the flooded streets of Houston, checking on people who couldn't evacuate, letting them know they weren't alone. I've watched him pray with people and stay with people, with families who've experienced horrible losses in Sutherland Springs, in Dallas, and El Paso. He doesn't just go to public ceremonies. He's there for fallen officers and their families in the days after and the years after. He's organized hundreds of churches to identify foster families. He's raised millions for special needs kids. And he started the first seminary program in Texas prisons that's graduated hundreds of inmates. Let me tell you this story. Kate Pepper, a high school senior at McKinney, was undergoing chemotherapy. She had brain cancer and had lost all her hair. She and her mom found a gorgeous turquoise wig that gave her the confidence to return to school, but when she got there, they sent her home. No colored hair. Rules are rules. Lieutenant Governor Patrick responded to her mom's Facebook post and posted a statement of his own saying that the school should make an exception. He promised to contact the school district, but he didn't have a chance. McKinney ISD rescinded their ruling the next day, and of course, they told the media that the Lieutenant Governor's statement had nothing to do with it. They had a change of heart. A change of heart. That's what happens when you're a Christian first. I've campaigned with him in small towns, and he likes to just drop by in local restaurants by surprise and talk to people. In South Texas, which isn't all red yet, a guy was having his lunch and he looked up and said, "I'm not going to vote for you." Lieutenant Governor said, "I'd still like to shake your hand." I know many of you have stories like this about the Lieutenant Governor. He has so many good friends in this room, real friends, close friends. And you know that you can count on him not only to be our North Star on conservative policy, whether it's popular or not popular, but also to be a friend. The Lieutenant Governor is a force of nature. He's a servant leader. He's a Christian first. The Honorable Lieutenant Governor of the State of Texas, Dan Patrick.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. If you're standing when I'm finished, then we've had a good day. Thank you, Sherry. August 27th, 1776. Was a pivotal day. June 6, 1944 was a pivotal day. 11/22/63, a pivotal day. 4/4/68, a pivotal day. 5/7/68, a pivotal day. 5/4/1970, a pivotal day. 8/8/74, a pivotal day. George Washington, August 27th, 1776, lost his first battle against General Howe. Didn't win many until Yorktown, where he accepted the surrender of the British in 1781. June 6, 1944, Eisenhower said, storm the beaches at Omaha and Utah. 11/22/63, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. June 7th, 68, Robert Kennedy assassinated. 5/4/70, 4 Kent State students were shot on the campus. 67 bullets fired in 13 seconds. 9/11, we know what happened that day. What's important about those dates? What's important about those dates is David McCullough, who narrated the Civil War on PBS, Ken Burns series, and who wrote many books about presidents and leaders, wrote a book called 1776. I recommend it if you haven't read it. It's a great read. And I met him at a book signing, and I wanted to talk to him. I was a freshman senator in Boston on a trip, and I said, David, I love the way you write history. And he said, Senator? I said, call me Dan, excuse my allergies. He said, there's no such thing as history. And I said, what do you mean? He said, history is how we look at things. We look back and we assume that the founders and George Washington knew they would prevail. And we all know, had they lost, they would have all been hung. We assumed that Eisenhower knew in June of 44 that they would successfully land. We assumed when Kennedy was assassinated that we would survive that, and his brother, we would survive that. We assumed on 9/11 we would prevail. He said what people miss in the current time when they look at so-called history is these were men and women making a decision in the context of time on the best information available to them and in what they believed in. They did not know the outcome, which makes their decisions that much more powerful. They didn't know. We kind of, when you look back and say, well, of course they knew. It doesn't mean too much. But when you realize they put everything on the line, everything on the line. It means that they were bold and they did what they thought was best for this country. And thank God they were all right. So what does that mean? It means right now, we in this room, we in this state, we in this country are in a moment in time that 50 years from now, people will look back on and say, of course they knew they were going to win. Of course they knew they'd take the country back. Of course they knew inflation would come down. Of course they knew the border would be secured. Of course they knew we would help Israel survive and keep Russia out of taking over Europe. Of course they knew. We don't know. As we sit here today, we do not know. And what does that mean? It means that we need bold leadership, processing the best information they have to make the best decision, praying to God for wisdom and favor and leadership. And in this country today, I would argue, with few exceptions, we do not have it. And your families are at risk. The future of this nation is at risk. And we as a people, one by one, living room by living room, district by district, state by state, have to stand up for this country like we never have done before. Because I don't know who's going to win in November. I know. I don't know what the future holds. But I know this, that when America looks for leadership, they look to Texas, because we are the last line of freedom and liberty in this country and on this planet. You heard from the governor yesterday and what I thought, and I saw a little bit. I had a busy day yesterday trying to figure out what the court just did with Senate Bill 4. I thought it was one of the best speeches he's ever given. It was very vice presidential. Now, you know, if that would happen, or he became Attorney General, the Lieutenant Governor becomes the governor. I'm not really worried about that, but I know this. Like every senator and House member here, I make $20 a day, and when he's out of state, I make his salary as acting governor, and if he's on the ticket, it's $100,000 a year the rest of 2024, no matter what happens. But Texas will lead. And leadership is about making bold decisions. It's about not worrying about being popular. It's about when push comes to shove, we rely on God to guide us and not ourselves. The only lobbyist I listen to, we get information from lobbyists. Look, pro-life groups have lobbyists, school choice groups have lobbyists. There are a lot of lobbyists. But when it comes down to making a tough decision for me, I go to prayer. I'm not the smartest guy. I don't know all the issues. But where does God want me to be on this issue? And even if I lose, I know I'm on His side. And I know I've listened to the God who gives us all our wisdom and our favor and puts us in positions to make those decisions. So we are in a place in time, like all of those historical moments I mentioned, where we don't know the outcome, but I can tell you this: if we do not stand up in Texas, we will surely lose. We have to hold the line in Texas. They look to us. What we are doing on the border, the governor and I, the money we've invested, the leadership we've taken, we've proven we can close the border at Shelby State Park. 3,000 to 4,000 people a day were crossing the border, and once Texas took over, it's less than 10 people a day. Joe Biden, get out of our way. Texas can close the border and secure it immediately. And Senate Bill 4, I know it's gone up and down and all around, but when the Supreme Court voted 6-3, That's a very good sign because that bill will eventually go back to the Supreme Court. We have a right in Texas to defend our citizens. We are being invaded. Make no mistake. The Constitution says only the federal government has the duty to protect the border unless there's an invasion. But our founding fathers were thinking of an army in uniform. This is not an army in uniform. This is an army out of uniform. The army is the drug cartels. And they send murderers and terrorists and rapists and child sex offenders across the border every day. They are so organized that we've arrested in Texas 1,361 smugglers, and that's the latest numbers through about 2 months ago, bringing people here. And by the way, 95% of them are American citizens. They're members of gangs who coordinate with the cartels because they push their drugs and they sex traffic. They coordinate with the cartels. The cartels send them a GPS coordinate and say, be at this place at this time. We will deliver people illegally across the border because they have 1,000 drones in the air. They know where our people are. They're well coordinated. They know when the shifts change. They know where the movement is. They know when they send a group over here, they can come over here. This is a well-coordinated military enterprise that we're facing. We are being invaded. And that's what Senate Bill 4 says. We are being invaded, and we have a right to defend ourselves. You know, when Biden said, we're going to cut the wire, the governor was in India on a trip. And I wanted to go down to the border that day because the Supreme Court said they can clip the wire. Not take it, they can clip it, if you remember that decision. And I thought, what would Governor Abbott do if we were here? He'd go to the border and be with the men, so that's what I did. And we were ready. If they came and clipped the wire, we had plenty of wire and National Guard to patch it right up. We were not going to let them take Shelby Park. This country is in as bad a shape as I've ever seen in my entire lifetime. And we went through those assassinations that I referenced. We went through the 60s. A lot of us lived through those years. Think about that. A president assassinated, his brother, civil rights leader. The 60s were a tough time. But we came through it as a country because the Constitution was strong, and we actually had Americans that all pretty much came together in those times. That's not the case anymore. There are a lot of Marxist leftists in this country today, and make no mistake, they want to destroy this country, and many of them hold office in the other party. What do Marxists and leftists do? They create chaos. And what do we have on the border? Chaos. What do we have in the stock market? Chaos. In the economy? Chaos. In the military? Chaos. In the woke culture? Chaos. Dividing Americans over simple things like, I'm sorry, I said this in 2017, Lois Colcourse carried the bill, took a beating, I took a beating. Men should not follow a lady into a ladies' room. They need to stay out of there. And we were proven right. And boys shouldn't be playing girls' sports. Why are we even having to pass a bill on that? That's what happens when the Marxist left invades a country. Why do they hate Donald Trump? I won't get political, but why do they hate Donald Trump? Because they've been working for decades to do what? To take over the country. And how do you do that? You take over the education system. I'll come back to that in a moment. Have they not taken over much of K through 12 today and higher ed today? Yes. And then you take over the media. Any questions there? What's the third leg of the stool to take over a country? If you have the next generation's minds, if you have the propaganda machine saying it's okay, all you need is the Supreme Court. Because it wouldn't make any difference what laws Texas passed. If it were a 6-3 liberal court instead of a 6-3 conservative court, we wouldn't have a prayer. They hate Donald Trump because they said he can't possibly defeat Hillary Clinton. They thought they had it in their hand. And because of his election, no matter what anyone thinks about it, because of his election, Obviously, I'm a supporter as chair of his campaign for the third time. But if not for him, we would not have a 6-3 conservative court, and Roe v. Wade would still be the law of the land. We would not have moved the embassy in Israel. We would not have told the president of Mexico, if you don't secure the border on the other side, I'm putting a 25% tariff on everything you sell to this country. Policies that worked, policies that made us safe, policies that made us prosperous. The Marxists, leftists, socialists are on the march. And believe me, if we don't stand up and fight, I can tell you this about the context and time that history will look back on. They will say, America lost. And make no mistake, if we lose in November, we're on a pathway, a faster decline than we are today. So it's up to us. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. All of you are bold patriots. You put your money where your mouth is. You support a great organization that guides all the members of the Senate and the House to be the most conservative state on planet Earth. You need to multiply your numbers. I don't mean writing bigger checks. I mean getting more people engaged. You know, the people that say they go to church every week in America, which is about 52%, only half of them are registered to vote, and only half of those show up to vote. If we could just register the rest of the people that go to church with you and get them to turn out to vote, no one can stop God's people. No one can stop God's people. You know, I used to think when I heard 2 Chronicles 14:7, you all know the verse, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray, turn their face to me and ask to forgive their wicked ways and heal their land, I will hear them from heaven, and I will say, I will heal your wicked ways, and I will heal your land. I thought that was Americans. If my people. I thought, well, that's America. It's not America. Who are his people? We are the Christians in this country who have decided to get involved in politics because we want a nation today for our children and grandchildren that it was founded upon when our founders started this nation. So my people, that's all of us. That's all the Christians in this country. If my people will pray and ask forgiveness for their sins, and we're all sinners, no matter how hard we try, I will heal their land. And that's where we are. That is where we are. And Texas has been given the responsibility by our Creator to be the leaders. They watch what we do. We pass a bill, they follow the bill. We pass the heartbeat bill, other states pass the heartbeat bill. We pass a strong election bill, other states pass a strong election bill. Whatever we do, they follow. Now, one area that we haven't led on, that we're about to take charge, is school choice. I said to the governor, you need to make that the first bill on the emergency item list, and you need to say, and I'm sorry, some people in the Texas House killed the bill. You need to say, if that bill doesn't pass, I'm not signing another bill all session. It is time for the parents of Texas to have the right to send their child to the school of their choice. We've passed it 5 times in the Senate. It's about time school choice passes so we can save our kids from the woke culture in our schools. We will not accept defeat. It is the civil rights of this time. I saw Kent Grusendorf over there, and I was sitting next to Dr. Jim Leininger and Cecilia. Kent, you have been on this issue forever. It cost you an election. And Dr. Leininger, stand up, Kent. Stand up, Dr. Leininger. Stand up, Cecilia. They were there when no one else was. I want to tell you, 40 years of work and money are going to get paid off in February of 2025. We will pass school choice. We will pass it. And the people, by the way, have spoken 2 weeks ago. Make no mistake. The people spoke. You know, look, Abbott and I campaigned across the whole state. We campaigned on school choice. People didn't vote against us. We won by 1 million votes. So any person from rural Texas who thinks the voters aren't in favor of school choice, well, some of them found out they were out of step. And they're not going to be back. I want to say something about the House and Senate. The Senate wants to work with the House. It should be easy. We've got a Republican governor, a Republican lieutenant governor, a Republican speaker. It should be easy. But as long as the Democrats have control of the Texas House on key issues, it will never be easy, and that's why we are where we are today. We have to be sure that your work and your efforts, the people that put out the yard signs, the people that give the money, the people that knock on doors, they expect Republicans to lead, conservative Republicans to lead, and it's about time we come together as one. We're not in a fight with the House. We just want the House to do what the Senate has done, and that's say, this is what I campaigned on, this is what you want me to do, this is what I'm going to do. That's what we did in the Texas Senate when I got elected. We changed the rules in the Texas Senate from the 21-vote rule to the 18-vote rule so that the Democrats can't block us. It doesn't mean we don't walk across the aisle and work with them. It's just we don't put them in charge. And that's why people say, how come the Senate keeps passing all this legislation? Because the Democrats can't stop us. You know, that's what elections are all about. I want my senators to stand up again. I know Hall's here, Sparks is here, Creighton's here, Colcourse is here. Stand up again. I'm as good of a lieutenant governor as these senators, and I have the best senators in the country. They work hard, they work smart, and they make tough decisions, and they fight for you. So I'll just close with this. This was a great session. Despite all the fighting and all the months, eventually we prevailed, and you got a homestead exemption of $100,000 if you're a senior, $110,000, and that meant your school property taxes have now been cut by 40% under Republican leadership. Retired teachers got the first COLA forever, and those 75 and over got a $7,500 check because they deserved it. We put $1 billion into water projects, which is a desperate need. We put $5 billion into the grid to encourage more building for natural gas plants, which we desperately need. Look, folks, there are a lot of priorities this session. You've already heard the first one. But we have to strengthen our grid, and we have no choice. On January 16th of this year, we needed 87,000 megawatts of power. We only have about 55,000 megawatts of natural gas, dispatchable coal, and nuclear. That means we're about 30,000 watts short. We depend on renewables. There's nothing wrong with renewables. It helps clean the air, keep our energy costs low, but we've overbuilt wind, we've overbuilt solar at the cost of natural gas. And so when it's cold on a winter night, and a storm by the name of Uri comes in, and the wind's not blowing, the sun's not out, we didn't have enough power. And people died in that storm. And I made a promise to myself, and the senators stood together, we will never allow this to happen again. We've replaced the PUC members, we've replaced the ERCOT members, we passed strong legislation, but we still need more natural gas plants. And if we don't have the private sector to step up, because we leveled the playing field, we have an incentive program that if you borrow money, we'll loan you money at 3% interest for 20 years. We'll give you a 10% completion bonus when you build that plant, and we'll abate your property taxes. If people don't take us up on that, then the state of Texas is going to have to build our plants because we do not, and subcontract them out to be run. We have to have the power we need, because the minute we can't turn on the lights dependably and reliably is the minute our economic miracle ends. So the grid is our focus in the Senate, my focus, and we'll continue to work on that issue. School choice, we'll work on. We'll continue to cut your property taxes. But more than that, we just have to stand up and be leaders. So when the historians look back, what happened? How did this time that we're in end? They'll look back and they'll say, well, of course it was easy. They know how it was all going to come out. We don't. Except we know if we're not in the fight with everything we've got to save this country, that we will lose. I know I can count on you. I'm in the fight, and I will never give up. I'm so blessed to be the lieutenant governor. I'm the last person, trust me, anyone in the Senate, when I got elected in 2007, thought would be lieutenant governor. I'm probably not the favorite of everyone now, but I will never take a step back on what I think you've asked me to do, no matter what that price is. We will fight in the Texas Senate. You know, some people have a closing to their speech like the president. I simply say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve you. I put my faith in God first. I listen to the people of this state. We sincerely, as a Senate, want to work with the House so that we can continue making Texas the great leader that it is. Thank you for being part of this great organization. God bless you. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. And I'm told, I believe that we have Senator Pete Flores and Representative Ellen Troxker that were able to join us. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. Want to thank our events team for making everything absolutely pristine and perfect today. Clint Neesmith, Annie, Addie, Erica, would y'all please go ahead and stand so we can give you all a round of applause? And most importantly, thank y'all for joining us here today, breaking bread with us as we talk a little bit about public policy. Other than that, as they say in Huntsville, Texas, y'all are free to go.